Alright guys, pneumatics lab number 6. Now we saw earlier when we were using the AND circuit that without the two pressure valve, that it worked fine, but there's no way that you could have one complicated circuit and another complicated circuit happening together because all we did was we just seriesed up the two switches. So if you need to have a more complicated circuit, then you can make use of the two pressure valve. Okay, so if you needed one thing and another thing to happen before the output happened, then you can make use of this guy. It looks very similar to a T. It has two inputs and it has a single output. The way that you'll distinguish which one this is in the lab is embossed on the front. It'll have this exact image of the AND valve. Okay, the other name for this guy is the two pressure valve. It needs two pressures of basically equal value before the output will actually happen. Okay, so pushing both push buttons at the same time are going to allow for the single acting cylinder to extend. If either of the push buttons is released, the cylinder is going to retract. Okay, so basically this symbol right here corresponds to our AND gate. Alright guys, let's hook this up on the fluid sim and see how it works. Okay, so now you've probably clued into the fact that you can probably leave each of these components on the page here, delete your previous piping, and then you can throw in for the next lab. So let's see, we need an AND circuit. So we need to feed both of these guys. So we're going to feed this guy, and we're going to click, hover over this line, and then drop it in. There we go. So now they're all fed from the compressor now. And before we had the first push button going in series with the second push button. So what we're going to do now is we're going to drop in our AND valve. So let's scroll down and we'll see if we can find that two pressure valve. Here we go. Excellent. So we're going to grab this guy, drop it in there. Very nice. Now it's a little bit crowded, so maybe we'll grab all this stuff and drop it down a little bit to provide us with a little bit more room to play with. We'll drop our two pressure or AND valve in between our two switches. And then we'll just line this guy up to make it pretty. Excellent. This guy is going into the input. This guy is going into the input. And we have our single output from the AND valve. Excellent. Press play. You can see that the dark and blue is their pressure going to each of our three twos. They're normally close to the passage of air right now. If I hit 1, nothing happens. Now let me press shift and you can see what happened there. You can see that this has moved over here and it's now blocked the air from going up to the single acting cylinder. Okay, if I let that guy go and press this one, you'll notice that the inside of this AND valve will shift over and block that air going up to the single acting cylinder. Okay, so it looks like hitting one or the other is not going to work because we're looking for an AND circuit now. So we're going to hit shift, click on the first button, then we'll click on the second button and we should have the air transfer up to the single acting cylinder. Excellent. The only problem with this simulation here, if I hit shift here, is that they haven't moved this over to the midpoint to show that their air is actually traveling up to the single acting cylinder. Let's bring it back to our rest state here. Okay, again, I'm going to hit one push button with shift, hit the next push button, and then you'll see that the air goes up to the single acting cylinder. Excellent. Let go of any one of these guys, and it returns to its rest state. Excellent. So now we could have a more complicated circuit here, or a number of series of events here, a number of series of events here, and then we put the two outputs from those circuits into an AND circuit and two pressure valve here, and that will allow our output to go out. Alright guys, let's hook it up in the lab.